All right, hey everyone, and welcome back to the Investor's Guide to Joy. I have Eric McHugh here. We're going to talk about a number of different things. Needless to say, a similar version of myself, potentially more facial and actual hair. But it's been cool getting to know him a little bit more and what he's done and learn about his journey. So, Eric, thanks so much for being on.
Hey, Paul, I'm really grateful to be here and I'm looking forward to our conversation. I can tell we're going to have a great time. Yeah.
So we, connected through Podmatch. The number I'm up to you to share, but I'm curious on the mindset of someone who intentionally knows their IQ score. I don't believe that a lot of people know that. And so I actually just want to share the story that's coming to mind. When my junior year of high school, I got a severe snowboarding concussion, was knocked unconscious. I almost had to drop out of high school. I was then concerned from a mindset perspective and a health perspective that, I could do things. And so I spent a number of years almost just trusting myself. Ended up taking a neuropsychology type test to be hey, am I at grade level or below? Turns out I was still above. It actually was just a fallacy of me believing as though I wasn't there. So right off the bat, wanted to ask a, kind of left field question of just you knowing your IQ, what process did that take to even want to take the step to know it? And then now that you do know it, what does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So a while back, I was at a VC incubator, and for your listeners, an incubator is essentially a startup school. There's a bunch of startups working side by side to each other, solving different problems. And the VC, the people who wanted to run they basically ran the incubator. They wanted everyone to take a test to see where everyone's at. And I think that was more of just a way for them to sell their startups. Me personally, I think IQ is a stupid metric. I think emotional quotient is much more important. Yes, you can be smart. Who cares? Can you understand? Can you be empathetic towards people? I think that's a much bigger driver to success than IQ.
Is there a, dare I say, test or quiz or something out there to understand empathy? There's, being an empath, but how in your kind of VC business owner sort of realm do you maybe understand or guess someone's level of empathy? Because I would agree it's absolutely imperative.
Honestly, I've never really incorporated tests or anything. It's more of a vibe check, and you can tell someone's empathetic. And being empathetic is extremely important when building a business, because you're a product manager. How do you build a product? Just put yourself in the shoes of the customers. I am a customer. I want to do this. I tried this. This is my intended goal, and that's the best way to portray that to the engineer so they can understand it too. So I would say, for some positions, it's not that important, but for leadership and just overall interfacing with customers and clients, having an empathetic view is extremely important. Because if you're trying to get someone to do something, you never really want to try to get something to do something. You want to establish a relationship where both people win. How do I know you're winning if I can't understand your point of view? If I can't understand your point of view, we can't really connect. So then that relationship's off to a rocky start anyways.
Yeah, certainly. As I have my shirt here that says win on it, what do you think you should define what a win looks like beforehand, or you should wait to see what they're kind of looking for and then define what it is? What's that process of you understanding wins and not necessarily negotiating, right? But working with them. Do you know what you're going into at first? Or are you very loosely held?
So intention in the background is to help. So whenever I go into a conversation, my intention is to be as helpful as I can to the other person. So if I'm helpful, that counts as a win. And the cool thing is you're putting out that certain frequency or that vibe. So if I'm trying to be helpful to someone, I'm putting that out. I'm attracting people who are trying to be helpful to me in my life. So that really helps with business collaborations. In terms of winning, I'm pretty sure it's easy. I think everyone can define their own parameters for victory. So if you want to set parameters to victory, this podcast gets 1 million views. Yes, that puts it out there. That creates an intention, and hopefully that reaches out. But I like to set the parameters for victory as did I learn from the situation? If I learned, that's a win. Because in startup world, I'm pretty sure it's 9 things out of 10 things don't work. But the 9 things that didn't work, at least 9 things that don't work, but you're closer to find that one thing that does work. You find the one thing that does work, it works for 3 or 4 days, it stops working for no apparent reason, and then you get to figure out why it didn't work and then optimize your process from there.
Yeah, certainly. What have you found to be the best mindset perspective to build software companies?
The best mindset perspective, honestly, is just adaptability. It's you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know who's going to be in your life, but just keep trucking along. Work on it daily. Work on it consistently. Try to help people, have good intention as a company, and everything seems to work out. Honestly, It sounds like a bit woo-woo, but my mindset is I think the universe is always working in my favor, not against me. And with that mindset, stuff just kind of works out. in terms of software, like having an agile approach, mind mapping everything really helps. Getting no,
Sure.
like no, what am I talking about? The best mindset to have in software, in building software, is just being good with getting feedback. If you can get feedback, you can learn from the feedback, getting as much feedback as you possibly can. You're going to be off to a good start.
What have you found the best way to get feedback has been?
Oh God, this is not a technical answer at all, but acting like a human with your customers.
Okay.
You're right. Just like, hey, you're a dude,
Yeah.
you're working with this. I'm building this company. I understand things may not be working perfectly, but what do you honestly think about that? And then thank them for their time. Don't be a dickhead. Like, thank you. I really appreciated this. This is how this helped our process. And then they're more likely to help you in the future with feedback, because people just want to be heard. And on top of that, a lot of times people come in angry, like they'll come in angry with you. So you have to learn to accept their anger, calm them down. So I like to use the accept, redirect approach. So it's like, I hear you. I hear this is the problem. This is what we're doing to solve this problem. The feedback helps us in this way. Thank you very much. And that usually leaves people in a good mood. And I think it's very important, because my intention is to leave every conversation. And I think we're aligned with this too. This is why I like going on podcasts. Like, my overall goal is to raise my own level of consciousness. The reason that being is, what happens when I raise my level of consciousness? It raises the level of consciousness of those around me, and then it raises the level of consciousness of those around them, and those around them, creating a nice positivity upward spiral. So each individual conversation I have, whether it be like a client using one of our products and services, a customer, a VC, my intention going into that is to have a good conversation and leave with a higher vibe, and hopefully that spreads.
So I would think that is, I mean, it's admirable. I agree with you. For someone who may not understand like consciousness, conscientiousness, like what does that first mean, and how does that mean you like show up?
Yeah, so in terms of the stream of consciousness, there's a very brilliant guy. His name is David R. Hawkins, and he charted it out. So each emotion has a different vibrational frequency. So just like a radio station, when you turn to a specific radio station, you get that radio station. So each emotion has a different frequency, like shame is the lowest, anger, fear, pride, hate, those are vibrating below 200. And the higher level emotions like peace, love, joy, acceptance, enlightenment, they're in the higher vibrational scale. So whenever I go into interaction, whether it be interaction with content, interaction with people, interaction with food, interaction with activities, I'm like, does this raise my own level of consciousness? Trying to climb that scale as a human being. Obviously, I make mistakes. So if my intention is to climb that scale as a human being, all my decisions kind of either subconsciously or consciously work around that. And then hopefully that spreads and creates like a wildfire positivity, which on the bright side, as a human race, I know negativity is being pushed. Like, you log into social media, it's like, bam, 99% negative.
Yeah, I mean, and that's intentional is the challenge, right? Yeah, because it there's more virality and conversations and a number of different studies and et cetera around how negativity has that ability to be stickier.
I would add on, yes, that's 100% true, but I would add on to this. It's more of a conspiratorial thesis, but it's like, okay, if there's powers that be that want to control the whole general population, the easiest way for a power be to control someone is to keep them in a certain frequency level, and that frequency level is anger, hate, fear. So those lower level vibrations, if you're trying to control someone, if they're in that state, they're more likely to act in a way that you want. So I think that's also a play. But yes, we do live in the attention economy. Obviously, negative content as it is, just it gets the clicks.
Yeah, for sure. How in a moment where you're at a lower, level of conscientiousness or consciousness, not conscientiousness, or is that the same?
I don't know what's a word.
Cool.
Yeah,
to then say like, because our thoughts can be like recognized, right? Same with our emotions, but they don't need to be kept. And so in those moments where, kind of survival instead of, like a reason or kind of a spiritual, like you said, kind of happiness, joy sort of aspect, like what are you thinking or feeling? How do you change that when there are those moments that aren't what you ideally should be, I would say, right? We all want to be on this high, frequency level. The consistency of that is a challenge in a number of aspects.
Yes, no, that's a great point. And the important thing is you can't like force yourself to feel happy. You just have to because you have to be an observer of your thoughts. You're like, okay, these are my thoughts, but my thoughts aren't me. So when you're at the lower level, the first and most important step, and I love that you get this, is you have to be aware of the fact you're at the lower level. So if you're unconsciously living in the lower, like survival mindset, greed, hate mindset, you're going to stay there. But if you're aware of that, you can slowly raise your level of consciousness with your activities. So the number one thing you can avoid is when you're at a lower level, think of it like a porter. You're likely to do things that may push you to a lower level. Like, you're sad, you're angry, you're likely to drink. You're more likely to drink if you're sad or angry than when you're happy. Once you're drunk, you're more likely to fall into other vices, and that pushes you down the timeline. But if you can stop at the beginning, it's like, yes, I'm sad, I'm angry, I don't enjoy being here, but it is what it is. Life is life. It's only temporary. It's changing. Go on a run, do some push-ups, and then that micro step, make your bed, answer an email, give yourself a small win, and then you can build off of that and then slowly raise your vibe.
Depending on the email. I say that jokingly. But yeah, I would say action certainly has been transformational in my life. There's sometimes where I've jokingly told others, like, have you heard of taking a walk? And it's simply because, changing actions and doing something physical changes like what your brain is focused on and why it's focused on it. Because the dopamine, the experience you have from just like simply taking a walk changes that, right? It's a pattern interrupter. It's the same thing of taking a cold shower in the middle of the day, if you will, or, a number of other things, and having that mental break of the conscious while the subconscious processes it. One thing I'd be curious to understand is, these are emotions, or are they thoughts as it relates to this map?
I would say thoughts are the base. So like your thoughts,
Okay.
like everything that happens in the physical world starts with a thought, and a prolonged thought, like a repeating thought, tends to lead to emotion.
Okay.
A prolonged emotion tends to lead to habit, and then that leads to an outcome.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and I was mentioning that I'm like writing the habit section of my book right now, incorporating 4 of the different books that talk about habits, like Power of Habit, Atomic Habit, things like that. And it's fascinating how, especially from like the habit of breaking yourself, right? That book, to then recognize like quantum physics as it relates to just energy, then thoughts and emotions and habits and actions, and changing those cues and rewards and systems, where I would say almost beforehand it's almost like this new enlightenment. Beforehand it was just, oh, I don't bite my nails, but I bite my nails, and that is what it is, right? You're just like so focused on that piece, but in all reality there's a bigger piece of energy flowing, right? To your point, thoughts, hey, I do those things when I'm bored or I'm nervous. Well, why am I nervous right now? Oh, it's because I don't feel adequate. Well, why don't I feel adequate? Oh, it's because I keep thinking of this thing, not doing the thing, right? I did that a lot in the software space of, oh, I'm going to make this incredible big company. Awesome. Like, what have you done today to like move the ball down the field? Oh, I thought about the, company name or the logo. And it's like,
That's cool.
awesome. Yeah. That is something that needs to be done eventually. So it's fascinating for me, at least for someone else who might just be so focused on that like speck, if you will, that it's almost like a crumb on the table. You're so focused on that, and your face is so close to it. It's like taking that step out and having that outward perspective on all these things that affect that. I've then realized that I've been able to like detach from that like speck of, say it's a thought or emotion, and recognize it to say, oh, hey, I am angry right now, but I don't desire to continue to be angry. I want to feel, happiness, right? Because, happiness is a moment. Joy is an attitude. So what makes me happy, or do things that make me happy, do things that bring me joy, right? And really separate that. I've found to be, incredibly beneficial. And I would be curious on your experience, like as you've been building companies and what have you, there's oftentimes you hear maybe 100 no's and 1 yeses, or 1 yes, especially in like the VC realm. And so how have you found this kind of vibrational frequency? I mean, really, in my mind, it's just having different thoughts to experience different emotions, like we just talked about. How have you found that to be, beneficial? Has there been an example that you can think of something that just like radically transformed your day just because you had like a different thought, even if something negative happened beforehand?
Honestly, yeah. So like in terms of how I change my day, so like I believe in timelines. So I believe there's positive time. Like I believe in the quantum, where there's an infinite number of possibilities happening in this present moment. The present moment that's happening now is the one you're giving attention to, and where your attention goes, your energy flows, which is why it's so dangerous to focus on the negative. Because if you're focusing on the negative, guess what? You're going to get more negative. But if you focus on the positive, you're going to get more positive. So once you start focusing on the positive, you start getting more and more positive, and it creates a snowball effect, which is great. My biggest thing, honestly, and it's just easy, but like if I feel myself going down a negative path, the easiest thing I do is I just take a sit and meditate. Could be a minute, could be 3 minutes, could be 15 minutes, could be 30 minutes. And that really resets my brakes. Because on my meditation, so I'm a daily meditator, and that's when I address my different thoughts. I don't have to deal with them. I just observe them and let them go. And then that brings me back to a calm, collected mindset. And then you can make the best decision. Because like I learned this from chess too. It's like in chess, you can make the worst move. Your last move could have been the worst move. The last move could have been the best possible move. Well, either way, it doesn't matter. The only move to make right now is the best possible move. And the best way to do that is if you're calm. You can very rarely make that from a negative standpoint. And that's something I think we touched on earlier, where I've seen plenty of times during my corporate career. It's like as a consultant, they're like, okay, we have this problem. The client's complaining. All of you get into the big room. We're going to sit in here until this problem is solved. And a lot of times it's after hours. And at that point in time, no one really wants to be here. The solution you come up with isn't the best solution. You dump time and resources into unoptimized solution, and then you have to redo it. Where the proper move in that point of time would have been to break the habit, go for that walk, take that meditation, just anything but forcing it. Like, yeah, just, and then reset calmly, collectively, and just think about it. Think about what's the best move right now.
Yeah, and psychology would, affirm this to say that, yeah, making decisions from the logical standpoint is best done in a calm, nervous system, because then you're not in fight or flight. You're able to take in the different information. I talk about this in my book too, of like being a ruler. So it's like taking in all the information from the different people, opinions or, facts, as well as your emotions and thoughts, to then say, hey, what serves me and what do I desire to do? You could have a complete conflict of the thought or the emotion and make a different decision than what that is. Same with, people's opinions too, simply because like what's best and using your level of discernment and confidence that you've built, instead of just going in that inherent moment with the emotion, right? Because emotion is then like a roller coaster. You're just going with the wind. I guess that's more of a kite. You're going with the wind. You don't really want to be going with the wind with a roller coaster. But that's been, transformative to, as I would say an underlying thing you're mentioning is this thing of space. So giving space to your thoughts, to your emotions, to then hold space for it and allow it to come in. Again, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What are other people telling me? What are the facts? What do I not know? And then making some sort of, decision, or maybe not making that decision. And meditation hasn't been something I've, really gotten into. Oftentimes can be, woo-woo. It's not take a cold shower or do an ice bath, right? Where I think that's very tangible, in my opinion. So tell me more about your meditation practice. And I want to start by asking you a question that goes like this. If you said a negative thought, you do meditation. Like, how is it the level of negativity that dictates the amount of time that you do meditation? Hey, this is really bad news, so it's going to be a half hour. Or is it just how much time you have in the day? Is it your like energy level? Like, what sort of inputs are you putting to figure out? Maybe it's not figure out, maybe it's just a feeling of how much time you're giving to a meditation. Because I almost think of this as like a nap, where it's like 20-minute nap, just hard press, right? But you're saying that it's not. So I'm curious what comes to mind for you and how you approach it.
Yeah, so in terms of meditation, I do a specific meditation method, and the meditation method I use is the Vipassana one. So it's the method that the Buddha used to reach enlightenment. You focus your attention on the area around your nostril, and then eventually you start to pick up different sensations, and then you scan your body back and forth over and over again. So what this does, it extracts the traumas that you've stored in your life. And once you extract enough negativity, you become a positivity generator, which just helps you out overall case. And the best way I would describe meditation is just think of your life as like an email inbox. Let's say your mind is an inbox that you haven't opened in years. What's going to happen when you first open that inbox? You're like, there's millions of emails. I can't deal with this. So when you first start meditating, you get hit with thought after thought after thought after thought. It's like, oh, this is kind of crazy. I don't want to do this. And then your mind starts making excuses, like saying, I don't want to do this. This is dumb. I need to check my phone. I need my water. I need to go on my laptop. But at that point, you have to treat your body like an animal, saying, look, everything will be fine. 15 minutes, we'll check your laptop. You'll get your water. Everything is good. But eventually, after consistent practice of that, you address most of your emails, and then your mind email inbox becomes more clear. So my particular meditation method is, again, like I think we would align on this too, where good habits are dumb. Great habits. They have compounding effects if you do them daily. Like if you read, you work out, you conscious of the content you consume. If you do that on a daily basis, it's going to have compounding effects. But at the same point in time, if you have negative habits, like, okay, you drink every day, you socialize with bad people, you're just overall negative, it's going to have negative compounding effects. So I start my day. The first thing I do is I wake up early in the morning. I wake up at 4:20 because I find that funny. And then I break out around yeah, right. Because logic behind that is when I was first waking up, like waking up early was not pleasant, but waking up at 4:20, it's funny. It's like, lol, start the day. So I do a 20 to 30 meditation to set my intention for the day. So during that meditation, I'm like, okay, all my calls are going to go great. We're going to help some people. The community is going to be happy. We're going to solve this problem. We're going to solve this problem. And then the day kind of works around that. So that's more structured. I like to meditate right before I sleep too. just because I think it helps me program
Okay.
it helps me program my dreams. So a lot of my dreams are lucid, which I think is cool. But obviously, I'm a person and I do stuff at night, so you can't always meditate before you sleep. In terms of during the day, there's no real science behind it, dude. It's just however long I feel. Like I'm not going to sit there for like 3 hours, but if it takes 10 minutes, it takes 10 minutes. If it takes 20 minutes, it takes 20 minutes. If it takes an hour, it takes an hour. My logic behind this, if I'm not in the proper mindset, because my overall goal is to serve customers and clients. If I'm not in the proper mindset to do that, I can't serve them to my best ability, which doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve the team. So yeah, just however long I feel. Usually it's like
Okay.
5 to 10 minutes, so it's nothing excessive.
In terms of like when you wake up and go to bed, what's that like? 5 to 10 minutes too?
30 minutes or an hour.
Okay.
And it's specifically an hour because of the Vipassana meditation retreat. So during that retreat, like all you have to do, like there's nothing to do, no talking with anyone, no look at anyone, no writing, no nothing, just for 10 whole days. So we had hour-long meditation methods, which is called strong determination methods, where you just don't move for that hour. You just meditate the whole time. And those can be pretty challenging, but that's when a lot of the inner work is done. And by inner work, I mean just addressing each individual thoughts, like how you're getting introspective, like I'm angry, why am I angry? And then you can adjust the source. You're going to the source of each of your individual issues. So that's why it's an hour. It's like, hey, you had a good system. The Buddha had a good system. Why would I mess with it? I'll optimize if I feel like it, but it works for me.
Is there any like music or anything kind of stuff for what does it look like?
For this particular method, it's complete silence. Okay. So I do 3 types of meditation. The first is the Vipassana method. If I really want to get some work done, that's the hardest one. And that's just silence. That's just sitting in one position over and over again, every inch of your body. And it's cool that once you start doing it, once you get in the groove, you start to feel the energy in your body. You can just flow, like you pick up the flow of your own body, which I think it's sick. But to do that, you need quiet, you need a bunch of stuff. Another type of method I use is binaural beats. So you can just easily YouTube those. And I think of everything in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So it sets a different frequency in each ear, and then your brain balances of that. So it kind of like forces you into a specific mind state. So that helps. I mean, that's like training wheels. And of course, I do like guided ones. Like there's some Tony Robbins ones I like, some Harry ones I like, where it's like, yeah, you're going to go get the day. And I'm like, I am going to get the day. And then it turns out I get the day.
Awesome. Are those meditations like motivational speeches with Tony Robbins and stuff, or they're actually like meditations?
So I do affirmations sometimes. So the Tony Robbins ones aren't meditation. They're not affirmations. They're more like, it's more just like being grateful, being thankful. So just like you did your breath work before this, I had my pre-call ritual is gratitude. So it's like being thankful for the day, set 3 goals of what's going to happen for the day, and then you kind of make those goals happen. So yeah, no, I like gratitude. I think gratitude's a high vibe to be in. So like before this podcast, I wrote in my journal, I'm grateful to be on this podcast because I am grateful to be on this podcast, and it makes for a better podcast.
Sure. Yeah. And I've found to that point too, like specificity, just the universe itself rewards specificity, right? So if I'm thinking or wanting socks and I get tube socks, I can't be, any negative emotion, if you will, right? We already talked about negative emotion, but it's because I wasn't specific on, hey, I actually really need black low-cut socks because that would be, what I believe is the best. Now the universe could give me the best of what I need, which could be different than what I asked for, right? But the fact that I just say socks, like that doesn't, hey, can I have money? Like that doesn't.
What does that mean? And I do this with the companies too. Like for ShopX, 80% of all ENFTs are be ShopX related RWAs because it has to be specific. For Dotting, which is an AI-powered matchmaking service, we're going to match 1 billion happy couples. Why 1 billion? Because that's the number we pick, and you need to be specific with the universe. And an important thing about that, because again, like when you're okay, this is a bit woo, but like when you're manifesting stuff, like getting socks is easier, so it's easier to manifest that. So like obviously,
why I use it. Everyone's like, oh, socks. I know socks, but you talk about money. Keep going.
Yeah, but like for the longer, harder goals, the key thing is just keeping that faith going, keeping that manifestation going, and just keeping it eventually, and just keep chugging along, working out daily, working consistently, and you eventually get it. Another important thing to note is the universe doesn't care about the context; it cares about the content. So let's say hypothetically, I'm like, let's use money for example, because again, I view money as a neutral thing. I think you can make money in good ways. You can make money in bad ways. If you make money in bad ways, karma bites you in the ass 100% of the time. If you make the money in good ways, you're probably going to add more value to society. So good for you. So in terms of like, let's say you're thinking money, it's like, I want to be rich. If you think I want to be rich, don't put up the energy like needing to be rich. It's like, I'm going to be rich because it's natural for me to be rich because I'm creating a lot of value for people. But if you think about, I don't want to be poor, even though grammatically I want to be rich and I don't want to be poor, are saying the same things, what you're thinking about is poor. And that's what the universe is going to give you. It's going to give you poor. So it's like so you have to be careful what you think. And that's why negative mindset's so dangerous. Like again, startup world, we can always relate it back. I like to relate the woo-woo, because I believe in woo-woo, but like I relate it back to business, because if you just talk about woo, everyone's like, what are you talking about, dude? So that's why you have to focus on what's working on your business versus what isn't working. Because if you focus on what's not working or why it's not working, you're just gonna get more of that where you have to focus on the positive, and that's what helps you truck along.
Yeah, I experienced that today. I'm in Costa Rica for a month and went down to the beach as I do. I'm doing 75 hard for the third time and have a community,
Oh, nice.
with me, which is really exciting. I'm 75 hard and holy. I'm also reading daily devotional too. And, saw the ocean, want to go, in the ocean, at least just my feet, got some cool new sandals. And I was with one of my friends and I said, oh, let's go see how cold the water is. I said, whoa, like I'm
Yeah.
already, predisposing like what the water temperature is going to be. And so it's to say in this moment, there's three different thoughts, right? There's how cold is it? How warm is it? Or let's go feel the temperature of the water. And so feeling the temperature of the water is just like taking in and kind of receiving it, right? So money and love and other things like that need the opportunity to receive. But as it relates to, the temperature, you have some sort of expectation on it of it's warm or cold. I, probably like most people like to be in the known. And so saying, oh, like it's cold. No, I don't want it to be cold. I want it to be warm. Oh, let's go see how warm it is. I'm expecting like, the warmth and some sort of like outcome of it. But when I then go feel the ocean and it's not of a similar thought of what I think warm could be or might be, then I'm disappointed. Right. And so it's really detaching from the idea of what the outcome is and what things are, because then you're putting judgment, placeholders, other things on those experiences and people and emotions for what they need to be or not need to be. Again, kind of warm and cold with the ocean versus let's just go see the temperature of the ocean. Oh, to me, that seems more of this. I've then found that also gets me more present. Wow, I now have to see or I need to feel and think and emotionally process like what's happening and forces me to be hyper present as opposed to, oh, it's already warm. Oh, okay, yeah, confirmation, like, leave, right? And there's more of a transaction here than more of an exploration and curiosity, if you will, in that third again, yeah, kind of judgmental frame.
Dude, yeah, you crushed that explanation. It's like and present is the key word. You have to be present. And who
Yeah.
are we to put our expectations on people, places, things? It's like we don't know better than the universe. It's like what the water needs to be warm because I say it needs to be warm. Well, what's warm to me? Warm is a spectrum anyway. So just go in like I'm here to enjoy the ocean. Could be cold, could be hot. It is what it is. Life is life, and just enjoy from there.
Yeah.
Versus like I need it to be warm. Well, it's probably not gonna be warm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It is a beautiful transition into something that I'm personally going through. It's the concept of building in decades, right? So
Yeah.
as you think of like, I mean, software specifically, right? Our backgrounds are like, raising funds or all these sort of things of going after these big, lofty goals. I'm also writing a book. Podcast could maybe, be in that again, just kind of content creation. Why, release this one thing or do this one thing? Well, those things compounded over time have the compound effect and then build, brick walls. And so, clearly laying brick by brick certainly helps. When you're, building in decades, kind of doing these, bigger things, how do you find to go about them? I guess it's just going to be my generic question. Confidence comes into play, presence comes into play, purpose, skills, abilities. Like there's a number of things that come in there. And I've recently had a lot of conversations with even some of my friends to say, hey, like, oh, you're just going after it and doing all these things and it looks so great and amazing. It's like, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other, right? And so, want to hear from your, thought process, like what comes to mind, or what advice would you give someone who's building in decades based on your experience?
Yeah, so based on my experience, the advice would vary person by person, but the core advice would be set your strong intention at the end. So for my personal example, it's shop at 80% of all NFTs will be RWA NFTs, adapting 1 billion happy couples. So our intention is set in the end. And then how we get there is a step-by-step continuous movement of best decisions. So like to get to those goals, we have to have those intentions in mind, which creates a quantum collapse to that reality of that's happening. But to get there, we have to make the best moment, the best decision. And how to make the best moment? Be calm and be present. So it's like you have to have your goal, but dude, you can't lead the present moments where the magic happens. That's where everything happens. And to your point, it's like present moment, don't be afraid of the unknown too. You're going to be uncomfortable. Like you're not going to get stuff done if you're staying. Like again, you can do the same things over and over again, expect different results. So you have to jump into the unknown. You have to try a bunch of stuff. Failure is okay if you learn from it and just continue, keep on trucking on.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's then in my viewpoint to say, hey, like you have the end in mind, right? It's the concept of like eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? Well, it's one bite at a time.
You start.
Yeah, just starting is helpful too, beyond just business plans and ideas and telling people about it. as well as shouting nameless affirmations into the universe. The other piece would be like, how do you build, a company or, some sort of decade-long plan from, the ground up? Like, what other things come to mind for yourself?
Yeah, so in terms of that decade-long plan, it's obviously good. So let's say we have a 10-year plan, we have a decade-long plan. We write down the 10. What's worked for me is just having like breakout team meetings. So we have our overall goals. We break out in each individual department. We set our goals. It's like, okay, marketing's going to hit these KPIs, engineering's going to hit these KPIs. And then from there, we break each individual goal into a smaller, we did this on the whiteboard, or like we did this with post-it notes. So we just had a calendar of all the steps we needed to take to hit the end goal, and we work backwards from the end goal. And then eventually that comes up with a pretty good plan. You take your pictures of that, you write that down, and that's your base plan. But you can't stick to your base plan because things aren't going to work out the way you plan it out. But just having that base plan and adapting and changing, and at least if you had the base plan, you know what to expect. And if something doesn't work on engineering, okay, now the marketing team knows, and they can adjust how they're going to market things. Just having that clear communication, working out step by step, but having that end goal, I think, is the most important piece.
Yeah. I mean, how do you navigate like within the decade, right? So if you're saying, hey, like here's our goal, of 1 billion, and you're looking at, what that's looking like for maybe, each day or each year, you're kind of breaking that down into those smaller chunks, and you realize, from a logical standpoint, that at the current rate you're producing, you're not going to hit those goals or things like that. Certainly within software specifically, there's oftentimes J curves, right? And so it's not, uncommon in our line of work, if you will. But what is that? How do you navigate that? Is that just the continued belief and it's more of an emotion? Like, do you change strategy? There's never different thoughts of almost like knowing when to pivot, not necessarily give up, right? But knowing when to pivot from maybe the original idea or the original North Star, again, that kind of like elephant. What has that been like?
Yeah, no, so having having the North Star is important, but the name of the game software is constant adaptation. So pivoting over and over again. And that's where having the more smaller goals, like quarter by quarter, year by year, having those written out, it shows you when you're not reaching your goal. And then that's when you can pivot to okay, well, this method's not working, this method's working. Maybe this is a different thing we want to try entirely. And we've done this with ShopX too. Like before we worked on NFTs for e-commerce brands, but now that is a narrative, we're pivoting hard into that. And if the narrative, the best, because that was the best move at the time. And if the best move at the time is it changes in a year, we'll switch to that.
Sure. Yeah. It reminds me of the concept of having confidence in yourself with the resources and, information, you have, and being certain on it. And then, as it may change, and certainly most things do change, then again, being present, understanding, making that decision as well. So that's great insight. I want to ask this question, and it's very open-ended, and it is simply, what have we maybe not talked about that has come in your mind that you think would be beneficial sharing?
Something I always like to bring up with people is, I think first off, I think authenticity is key. So I think I'm the best me I think, so two things. I think everyone is happiest when they're serving other people. And I think there's a God creator conscious. I think he blesses everyone with each individual gift. So if I try to do what you do, I can't beat you at being you. But if you try to be me, you can't beat me at being me. So logically, if I'm trying to serve as many people as possible, the only way for me to do that to the best of my ability is to follow my natural gifts, follow my natural intellectual curiosity, follow my natural skills. And that's how I can serve as many people as possible. And when you're creating something, everyone is a conscious creator, whether you know it or not. So when you're creating stuff, just don't harm anyone or don't take anything away from anyone, because karma 100% exists. And that's something I'd be wary of. Everything is cause and effect, whether it be your thoughts, your actions, every thought has an effect. Every effect has a cause. So if you can link those together and just realize, okay, if I do this one activity, it has this effect, and just string together a bunch of positive ones, you'll set yourself up for success.
So one question I do always ask is, what do you want to leave in the guide? Like a quote, motto, intention, experience that people would, take away and benefit from.
Yeah, so in terms of the guide, in the Investor's Guide to Joy, I think joy, obviously money's not the end goal. Money helps you to get there. So money can help you buy freedom. So it's the tool, not the end goal. But in terms of joy and happiness specifically, I believe there's a God. I think there's a creator. I think, why do you think God or the creator of the universe created us? I think he created us to enjoy the other creations, which is cool. So if we're putting this, if our purpose was meant for joy, it's not meant to be in scarcity. It's not meant to be in lack. It's meant for joy. If that's our purpose, I think that's our base. So again, I'm an individual person, so I can tell you what works for me. It's how are you happy all the time? How are you happy most of the time? I realize that happiness is my base. So if it's my base, it's not something I have to go out and get. I don't need a Lamborghini. I don't need billions of dollars to be happy. How am I happy? I just relax into that. which it's usually meditation or like a walk or just something simple, like a glass of water.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes.
And also gratitude's key too. It's like gratitude's so like me, a personal hack I have is I have a gratitude journal. Like
Cool.
when I wake up in the morning, it's super cheesy, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what are the 3 things I'm thankful for? I have water, I have a bed, I have working legs. Not everyone has that. And then that's a great mindset to be in. I help in my meditation. Before each business call or business activity, I write down, because writing it down is important because it puts it out there. It's like, I'm
Mhm.
grateful to be on this podcast. I'm grateful
Yeah.
to this Excel sheet, because then it just puts you in a better mood. And then like gratitude attracts more abundance anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. I found with my gratitude practice that, again, with like the specificity, it's doing, hey, I might be, grateful for this food I'm about to eat because it nourishes my body and allows me to do the things I know I'm called to do, like on purpose, right? So kind of like a string of things. To me, that's been really beneficial versus, I know others, because I've led kind of gratitude practices or group chats or things like that.
Mhm.
It's like, I'm grateful for friends. And I intentionally say it kind of that way in that, example where I just personally don't see how that can be like the level of depth of, gratitude. And I appreciate what you said in the sense of like podcasts. I'm glad you're on too. An enjoyable conversation, with you. It's great to be grateful, to say the least. So.
And I'm grateful you keep mentioning specificity, because that's something I can be more of. Like I like how you broke it down. I was like, yes, I'm grateful for the food. Yes, having food is great because not everyone has food, but I'm grateful that it gets to nourish me to accomplish my goals, to help people. So adding those extra layers, because I think about it, most things are layers.
Yeah.
That little tidbit is something I'll probably take away this conversation forever. So thank you for that.
Cool. Well, great. Well, appreciate you coming on. And yeah, look forward to staying in touch with you nonetheless.
Yeah, 100%.
If something resonated with you today, share it with a friend. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, leave a 5-star review. It's one of the best ways that I can know what and how I'm doing is being beneficial to you and your life as a listener. Thanks for joining. We'll see you on next episode.